All right, so today we're gonna um, dive into something pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk's pre-election activities.
Activities, that's one way to put it.
And we're not talking about like some rant on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
We're actually talking about a court case over a sweepstakes he was running.
$1 million a day, all tied to voters, you
$1
know?
million a day.
Yeah.
So, sounds crazy, right?
It's pretty out there. It's not just some quirky Elon Musk story.
Right,
This
right.
could actually show us how political campaigns are going to be run in the future.
Yeah, this is like a potential new playbook.
Exactly.
And we're going to be digging into all of this based on this Associated Press article that covers this whole legal battle against this sweepstakes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it is wild.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking accusations of scams, questions about the legality of it all, and really just like a whole lot of uncertainty around how this might have swayed the election.
Like, where's the line, Where's the line between just thinking outside the box and straight up manipulating voters?
Totally. Okay, so let's just like break this down a little bit.
Yeah.
So Musk's got this political action committee, or a PAC called
Yeah.
America PAC.
Right.
They launched this campaign where basically you sign a petition supporting the Constitution, which, I mean, so far that sounds pretty standard.
Right. Yeah.
But here's where it gets a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
They were giving away $1 million every single day to a randomly selected winner.
$1 million a day, and Musk was really playing up the random thing, like...
Randomly selected? Oh, wow.
Yeah, but during the court case, it comes out that these winners were actually pre-vetted.
Wait, hold on.
Pre-vetted. But how can it be random if they're picking winners ahead of time?
Right.
Like, that doesn't really make any sense.
That's where this legal challenge comes in.
Okay.
So the Philadelphia District Attorney, Larry Krasner, he called the whole thing a scam to influence the election.
Yeah, he even argued that it might actually violate Pennsylvania election law.
So did the lawsuit like stop the sweepstakes?
Well, no.
Oh.
The court actually sided with Musk's PAC. They let the sweepstakes run right through Election Day.
Wow. So even with this whole pre-vetting thing, the judge was like, yeah, you're good.
Yeah. We don't know all the details of the judge's decision just yet, but the PAC's defense was pretty interesting.
Okay, so what was it?
They argued that the winners weren't chosen randomly at all. They were selected as paid spokespeople.
So basically they were getting paid to like endorse the PAC.
Pretty much, yeah. And Chris Young,
Yeah, okay.
PAC's director,
Yeah.
he testified that they vetted winners based on their personality and, whether they aligned with the PAC's values.
So it's almost like they were like casting for a commercial or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so where does Musk actually fit into all of this?
Oh, Musk was front and center the whole time.
Okay.
Announcing the sweepstakes, handing out those giant cardboard checks. And he even put over $70 million of his own money into this PAC.
Wow, so he really put his money where his mouth is, huh?
For sure.
I'm guessing he was probably like all over social media promoting it too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He used his platform to get people to sign the petition.
Right.
Constantly talking about the chance to win $1 million.
Yeah.
And he even used the word randomly himself.
But this wasn't random at all.
Right.
This all just feels a little bit deceptive.
This is where it gets really interesting, though. Think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
This raises so many questions about transparency
Yeah.
and the power of social media, when it comes to elections.
Right. And also there's that whole like data collection side of things too.
Yeah.
Right. DA Krasner was really worried about the PAC gathering info from over 1 million people.
Right. Over 1 million.
And he even said they might use that data for stuff beyond the election.
Yeah, which is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we need to be really careful about how our data is used.
Especially when it comes to politics.
For sure.
Now, why do you think they focused this whole sweepstakes on Pennsylvania?
Well, Pennsylvania is what they call a battleground state.
Right.
So it could go either way in the election.
Right.
And those states can really determine who wins,
They're important.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that the timing of all this lined up perfectly with Pennsylvania's voter registration deadline.
Yeah, that's...
Coincidence? I think not.
I don't think so.
And then just to like add even more to that,
Right.
both Trump and Kamala Harris were planning campaign visits to Pennsylvania right around then.
It was like a political pressure cooker.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It wasn't some random state, This is a key battleground, and Musk's PAC was right in the middle of it all.
So even though they let the sweepstakes continue,
Yeah.
could there be consequences for Musk and his PAC down the line?
Well, DA Krasner hasn't ruled out pressing criminal charges
Oh, wow.
or civil damages later on.
So this might not be over.
Not necessarily, no.
That's crazy to think that just like a sweepstakes could cause all this.
It's not really about the sweepstakes itself,
Right.
it's about what it represents.
Yeah.
This whole situation really makes us rethink our understanding of campaign finance
Right.
and what's considered ethical, in a political campaign.
Totally. It's almost like we're getting a sneak peek into the future of how elections might be run.
Right. Are we moving away from the traditional methods?
Yeah. Are we moving into this weird new territory?
Exactly. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, what's next?
Yeah. This whole Musk situation, it really highlights how things are changing in politics. Like it's a whole new era almost.
And it definitely raises some concerns about the influence of these super wealthy people like Musk. Do they have too much power when it comes to actually swaying voters?
Yeah. I mean, can someone with that much money use these like unorthodox tactics
Right.
to actually tilt the scales?
And we can't forget that Musk publicly backed Trump. Right.
So that just adds another layer to all of this.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so just to recap a little bit.
Yeah.
We've got this sweepstakes that was presented as random,
Right.
but they actually use these pre-vetted spokespeople.
Right.
Then we've got this legal challenge that's saying it was illegal,
Right.
but then a court ruling that let it continue,
Yeah.
and still all these unanswered questions about data collection and potential future fallout.
All happening during a presidential election.
All right, and in a battleground state.
Exactly.
It's just a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is.
What stands out to you as the most significant part of this whole thing?
Well, for me, it's this blurring of lines between campaigning
Yeah.
and something that feels more like marketing
Right.
or even entertainment.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if this is like a glimpse into the future, how campaigns are going to try and connect with voters.
Yeah. So could we see more campaigns using sweepstakes and games and these other kind of unconventional tactics to grab attention?
And maybe sway voters.
It's definitely possible. And if that's the way things are headed, then we need to be ready to really evaluate these tactics and how they could impact our democracy.
Yeah, this has really been a
Yeah.
eye-opener.
For sure.
It's clear that the way we approach campaigns is changing, and this whole Musk sweepstakes is like a perfect example of that shift.
And it really underscores the importance of just staying informed,
Yeah.
thinking critically,
Right.
and just understanding how political campaigns are adapting in this new landscape.
Absolutely, especially with an election coming up.
Right.
We need to be aware of what tactics are at play and what they could mean for our democracy.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that there's always different sides to the story.
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on,
Yeah.
I actually wanted to circle back to something that DA Krasner mentioned.
Okay.
He seemed really concerned about the data collection part of this whole sweepstakes.
Over 1 million people signed up for this thing,
Yeah.
handing over all their info.
It's a lot of data, and it really
Yeah.
makes you wonder, how could this be used
Yeah.
now and in the future?
It's not just about who won $1 million.
Right.
It's about what could happen with all this personal information in the hands of a political action committee.
It really highlights the importance of data privacy
Yeah.
and transparency. We need to know how our information is being collected and used.
Especially in the context of political campaigns.
Right. We live in a data-driven world.
Yeah.
We got to be aware of how this data is being leveraged.
Especially in the political arena.
Yeah, it's a reminder to be careful about what we share
Yeah.
and who we share it with.
Yeah.
And the potential consequences of all that.
Exactly.
This actually leads perfectly into our final thought for today.
Okay.
Think about this.
Yeah.
Musk's America Peg. They focused on the Constitution.
Right. So they used this petition to gather data from people who support the Constitution.
Right. Which seems kind of like a minor detail.
Yeah.
But it actually brings up a pretty big question.
Right. Could tactics like this,
Yeah.
using support for the Constitution as a hook,
Yeah.
become the norm for collecting data and influencing voters?
Right.
It's definitely something to think about.
It is. It is. This whole Musk situation is like a microcosm of all these larger trends at play. It's a fascinating case study.
Yeah. It reminds us to be vigilant,
Yeah.
informed, active citizens.
Especially as we're approaching this election.
Right.
So as you head to the polls tomorrow,
Yeah.
remember everything we've talked about today.
Yeah.
Think critically about the information you see.
Right.
Be mindful of how your data is being used.
Yeah.
And recognize that even something like a sweepstakes can have far-reaching implications.
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in ensuring a fair and transparent democratic process.
Well, that was quite the deep dive.
You will.
We covered a lot of ground today.
You did.
Hope you found this as insightful as we did.
Yeah, me too.
Staying informed and engaged is more important than ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, like we can't just take things at face value,
Right.
especially when it comes to something as important as our elections, you know?
Yeah.
It's like we got to be asking the tough questions.
Right, like what are their motives?
Yeah, who's behind this? How could it actually affect things?
What's the end game?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like you start with something that seems pretty simple, like sweepstakes,
Right.
and then suddenly you're like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Yeah.
You start with the sweepstakes, and next thing you know, you're thinking about campaign finance and data privacy.
And the role of social media,
Exactly.
right, in shaping public opinion.
And what's even more like unsettling, I guess,
Yeah.
is the potential for this to become like the norm.
Yeah, like what if every campaign is like this?
Right? What if every election is just a bunch of flashy giveaways and data mining?
Disguised as fun.
Exactly.
It's got like a chilling thought.
Yeah, it is.
Like, are we
Yeah.
losing sight of what actually matters?
Are we just getting swept up in the spectacle?
Right, and the stakes are super high.
Yeah, we're talking about the future of the country.
Yeah, the very foundation of our democracy.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up, what's like the one thing you want our listener to take away from this?
I think the biggest thing is just critical thinking.
Yeah.
Don't just accept what you see, especially before an election.
Right.
Dig a little deeper, you know?
Ask questions.
Yeah, question motives and just think about what could happen.
What are the consequences?
Right, because at the end of the day, our democracy depends on us being informed.
On us being engaged.
Exactly.
Well said. Well, folks, that's our deep dive on Elon Musk's pre-election sweepstakes.
Yeah.
And the future of campaigning.
You're the good one.
Yeah, and all the questions that come with it.
It was.
I hope this was insightful and got you thinking.
Me too.
Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed.
Absolutely.
It's more important than ever. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. It's